All right, as per usual, I feel like we started before we started. It's almost impossible to just not get talking backstage and go right into things. But for everybody who wasn't joining us backstage, which is everybody but you and me, Paul, welcome back to the Any Given Day podcast. Today we have Paul Nguyen, who I just learned was almost going to be a Marine. Luckily, he figured out some good information before making that decision because he actually ended up alongside me in the Army Rangers. So, Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Cool. Thanks, Nate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And you actually listened into a couple of podcasts, which is good. I feel like sometimes that's almost it's almost cheating. So I feel like I should have some trick questions up my sleeve or something like that. But I think you got a killer story. The little of I know of it. Like always, I'm hoping to hear a little bit more tonight. Dude, what are you doing right now, by the way, on a Wednesday evening hanging out with me? What should you be doing?
Well, I was supposed to be rolling with some of my buddies, but it was just raining earlier today, so we couldn't get the mats out. I got a group.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Are you competing at all?
No, not in jiu-jitsu. I don't compete in jiu-jitsu. I do compete in USPSA pistol shooting competitions.
Sick.
But jiu-jitsu wise, no. I'm like older now and my body's jacked up, so I'm not trying to get smashed up by, these guys that are full-time athletes,
That's fair. Have you gone shooting with James?
Yeah, I've gone shooting with him a few times. Yeah. He actually
Awesome.
lives like 20 minutes away from me. So we're pretty close.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Man, I was out there not that long ago. I feel like the last time I saw you was maybe Fagan's wedding.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Man, what I remember of Fagan's wedding, that was a blast.
Yeah. That or Higgins or Doc Lee House. Were you at Doc Lee House wedding?
Lee House. It might have been
Yeah,
Lee
yeah.
House. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that wasn't the last time. That was like 15 years ago.
I feel like there was like a trifecta of Ranger California weddings.
Yeah.
It was the one with where we floated the river.
Yeah. We went down the river.
And there's that crazy high bridge that a bunch of us jumped off of. I think my ass is still bruised from hitting the water on that one.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, it's definitely been too long. I think part of my favorite parts of this is just reconnecting with people like you. Dude, that said, like, what got you into, that Ranger path to begin with? So like, you're back in high school. What made you go that direction?
So like we were talking about a little bit earlier before the recording, I didn't really know what I was going to do after school. The family situation wasn't the greatest. And, I was just trying to find something different that everybody else that I was growing up with wasn't going to do in a sense. I had a community college right next to my high school that, the teachers would say it's basically ASU, across the street university, or 13th grade, where everybody graduates and just walk across the street and they do the same things. So I didn't want to do that. I couldn't see myself continuing that at that moment, And I had another buddy that I went to school with that was like, "Hey man, let's join the military. Let's go, let's go fight." So I was like, "All right, let's look up, where should we go?" And the commercials were like, "The Marines are the first to fight." So I was like, "All right, let's do that." I hit up my cousin. My cousin was in the Marines, and he was like, "Do not do that, man." He's like, "They're gonna give you an open contract, and you're gonna be in the needs of the Marines. So it's like, you might fight, you might cook, you might do something else." And I was like, "Well, I want to be guaranteed, like, to deploy and fight. Where should I go?" I went to the Army recruiter, and the guy's like, "Well, you ever thought about Rangers or Green Berets?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I've seen all the movies, like I want to be a Green Beret." And I was like, "Well, what's a Ranger?" And the guy was like, "Watch this movie." So he told me to watch Black Hawk Down, and I was like,
Man.
"Oh," I was like, "Dude, that's kind of crazy, I don't know why I wanted to do it, but I was like, fuck it, let's do that, right? If I can't make it there, I at least be in an airborne unit, right? Going through airborne school, and if I couldn't make it through airborne school, which I mean was easy, we all know that was pretty easy, but watching Band of Brothers, it was like the elite back then, right? So I watched a bunch of war movies, and I was like, man, being a paratrooper would be pretty cool too. So if I couldn't make it there, I would at least be a grunt, right? So no matter what, the pipeline was guaranteed combat. But when my recruiter was like, "Dude, if you really wanna get after it, the Rangers are gonna get after it." So, I was like, "Alright, that's what I'm gonna do," and I started training up for it, my senior year.
So this would be post 9/11.
Yeah, yeah, I graduated 2004. I tried to join before I turned 18, but my parents were like, "No, you're going to school, you're gonna do either, like, computer programming or engineer." Asian parents are like, "You gotta have a title." So, I was just like, "Alright, well, I'm gonna give you guys a title." You know what I mean? It's not the one you guys want, but,
The army does issue you a title.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of the route I went. I wasn't good enough to do all the stuff that they wanted me to do, and I couldn't live up to that. So I said, I'm gonna create my own story, kind of deal.
Dude, I
Yeah,
mean, you
18
you
years old, I signed up, and I just left right after.
and you definitely went on to create your own story, to say the least. So you were in second platoon, right?
Yeah,
When I was, because I came back in, I had a break in service, and I came back in, and I came to first platoon, and then I feel like second platoon's where all the wild shit happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an interesting first deployment and second deployment.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
What are kind of some of your, if you don't mind sharing, what are some of your highlights from those two trips?
The first trip, I think that's when General McChrystal took over. So we were doing a gang of raids. Like the first day we got in the country, we offloaded the pallets, and my squad leader at the time was like, "Hey, let's build some demo." And I literally just showed up to battalion maybe 3 weeks before
Holy
deployment.
shit. That's
Yeah,
rough.
so when I went through RIP, the instructor's like, "Hey," they kind of gave us a wish list, like, "Where do you guys want to go?" And I was like, "Well, who's deploying first?" And they said second bat, but they're deploying within like a month. So I was like, "All right, let's do that," you know? I got lucky, and I got to go to second bat, and everybody was on leave. So by the time they came back, it was like, "All right, let's get ready to go," you know? I showed up and I got lucky. There was a guy, Thomas. I don't know if you remember Thomas. He's my senior private, and that guy was super squared away. That guy showed me the ropes, showed me everything while everybody was on leave. He came back, I think, early. He showed me how to do everything, for the most part that I needed to know, and then once I went overseas, that's when we started building all the demo. He was already, I think he had, like, a breacher qualified or something like that, demo qualified, so he showed me how to build all that stuff out, and I think we went on a mission that night or, like, the next day, and I think we did, like, 2 follow-ons after that. So, when we got back, my squad leader was like, when I went on deployment, it's like we didn't go on a mission for a little while. You have already got 3 in under your belt, right when we got. So I was like, "This is pretty awesome." We were moving everybody's moving fast. It's pretty much what I wanted to do, you know? Throwing bangers, blowing up doors, that was fun, man. So
Dude, I mean, you jumped right into the thick of it. The early post 9/11 days, like my first two deployments were a whole lot of not much.
yeah.
And then I came, when I was out, I heard how great it was getting, and that's part of what drove me back. And then I got back, and yeah, it was immediately into the mix. But the deployment I missed, which might have been your second one, I'm not really sure timeline wise,
Yeah.
to be honest. But the deployment I missed, I know was a really busy one for most folks. And
Yeah.
then, that's got to be crazy though to get there when everyone else is on leave. And then pretty cool that Thomas like took you under his wing though, because I feel like that could go a couple directions. They could be like, "You're a nuisance. You're just gonna, kind of be the bitch and take care of shit for us because you just got here," or they take the time to care and get you up to speed. And obviously they went the latter route, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, no, I got lucky. So when I showed up, there was another guy that I guess looked exactly like me. He ended up doing AWOL, Say Chow. So I showed up and they're like, "Hey, it's new Chow," you know?
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, I was like, "Damn it, who the hell is that?" And then, they were smoking me, they were giving me a lot of crap, but
Yeah.
I feel like I was on it, on top of my game. Like I was for the most part, I feel squared away. Like every time a squad leader tried to question me on things, like I had the answers for everything. So they're like, "All right, this guy's not." a dirtbag or, he's not slow. So I feel like I've gotten away pretty well with my squad because of that.
It's awesome. So on the as you went on your second trip, how did that one differ from the first?
It was a little slower. We weren't going on as many missions. I think our first deployment, we went on, I mean, maybe 90 or 100 missions, almost a mission every day, and follow-on missions. And then after that, I think that was after Zarqawi was killed and everything just really slowed down for the most part. That's where I got hurt just like 2 weeks before coming home. We didn't get in really that many firefights that trip, maybe a handful, a couple. And even that night that I got hit, it was a really quick ordeal. It was like a small room with a couple dudes in it. That was the major difference is a firefight, like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost tougher, I feel like, when things are slow.
Yeah.
'Cause, not that you get lulled to sleep or anything like that, but you do get a little confident. Sometimes you might get, a little bit complacent even. And so it can definitely change the tone a little bit and change your, situational awareness and all that good stuff. And then, like, obviously, as you experience, you can go from 0 to 100 literally instantly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what was kind of because I think this is something that's probably evolved, at least I hope it has greatly. And I kind of know that, I guess, because I've shifted over to the human performance side of the house and spent some of that time in the soft community on the human performance teams. But, like, what was sort of the aftermath in terms of, lifestyle, the care you received, that type of thing after getting hurt?
The care for the most part, well, when I was at Walter Reed, I could barely walk. So I got shot in my leg. I had a broken pelvis. My side nerve was severed. And so I couldn't really pick up my foot. I couldn't really stand for a long period of time. At Walter Reed, I think I was pretty much bed rest that whole month I was there. And then it wasn't until they moved me back to Madigan to Fort Lewis to where I started doing my PT work walking trying to walk, from or trying to stand at first and then walk to my front door, and then from there do laps around, the inside of the hospital. The PT people were pretty great. We had battalion PT, I think it was
Yep.
Captain Kushner or something like that. He
Yep.
was great. He was working with me every day for the most part. So I had good care. There was nothing there's no problems with the care while I was in service. It's like getting out was the problem, right? Like the VA system's a little difficult out here.
Yeah.
But at that point, I already understood what PT I needed to do, so I just did it on my own at that point.
What was kind of I don't even know how to ask it, to be honest, but, like, what was sort of the good and bad as you look back on that experience of being wounded and on the experience of everything that it took to come back from that?
The bad part is that you're all alone, so I went from being with a squad full of dudes, we were all eating, working out together, BSing together, like a family, right? Like I didn't have the greatest family back home. So I had a family in the military. And then once I got hurt, I was in like a hospital by myself, so that was kind of hard because it was like, well, man, what did I do? I felt like I was thrown in jail and I didn't do anything, I felt to be in that situation, like jail situation, right? But then now I'm like, okay, well, now I gotta figure out how to recover, and that was the hardest part is dealing with myself, in a room by myself, in solitary confinement pretty much. The good thing, though, is I was able to climb out of that. I know some guys have a problem climbing out of it or hard time. Some guys still dealing with it. To be honest with you, it took me years to really climb out of it. I Once I started healing physically, and I started trying to really, like, do long distance walks and start running, and then one of my ranger buddies is like, "Hey, dude, you ever think about trying to train jujitsu, like to desensitize your foot?" My foot was really messed up. It was like on fire. It felt like it was on fire all the time. My nerves were firing pretty bad. And I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I was living by myself out here in California. I didn't really. All my friends kind of moved on, so I was like, I got to figure out something to do, right? Like I need a group of like-minded friends, on the same page with me, on the same schedule as me, and so I started going to like the afternoon classes, like around 12. That's where a lot of entrepreneurs would go train, or like cops or firefighters. And it was great, man. My first class, I told everybody my problem. I was like, hey, I got stomach issues, I got leg issues, my nerves are pretty jacked up. And they're all understanding. So they just slowly worked with me. And my foot started slowly being desensitized. And now, I can grab my foot. It feels weird. It's not the same, but it's not as painful as it was before. After that, my jujitsu coach was like, hey, you ever thought about backpacking and just traveling around? Like, you seem like you have a lot of time on your hands. I got medically retired. I had
Yeah.
some, I get taken care of in a sense. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I'd like to do that, but where should I go? He's like, go to Brazil, learn some jujitsu down in Brazil. And, there's a hostel down there that houses a bunch of fighters pretty much. Guys that, do Muay Thai and jujitsu and any type of martial art down there. So I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. So I went down there for 3 months. And while I was down there, that's when I think everything changed for me perspective wise, of like the anger, the all the negative emotions, right, that was in me went away because I saw these kids living like a rough life, but they were happy. And I was like, man, how do I flip that switch where, back home, I have it made pretty much. Why am I not happy? Why am I dwelling on all these problems that happened to me? And I should be like this little kid playing soccer with a coconut.
Yeah.
He doesn't know any better. He's got
Yep.
no shoes. And I was like, man, after that, I was like, I don't have a right to be sad. I don't have a right to be, feeling sorry for myself over whatever happened. Whatever happened, happened. It's over. It's in the past. I got to figure out how to move forward from it. So from then on, I just flipped the switch and I stopped being, depressed pretty much. Came back home and I met with a guy that was a pastor up in Fort Lewis, but down here at a veteran business networking event. And we started talking and I told him my story and he was like, "Oh, dude, you were in Fort Lewis?" He's like, "So was I." I told him my story and he's like, "You got to talk to some guys that I know here. Maybe I think you'll be able to help them out." So I did that for a little bit. I volunteered to help out and talk to these other guys that came back from overseas that were having problems. But eventually it got to a point where I was like, man, some of these guys are coming in are saying they had problems. I didn't feel like it was a problem in a sense, if you know what I mean. Like they
Yeah.
didn't really get hurt physically, but they're saying that they got hurt mentally from being overseas. And I was like, I don't know how to relate to that, because everybody I know, especially after I got hurt, that deployment that the guys went to Afghanistan, there was like, I think 14, 15 guys that got hurt from 2 Charlie. So I was like, man, and these guys got hurt pretty bad too. I was like, I know guys that got really hurt and they're sucking it up. I think you guys need to figure out how to suck it up too. Like I can't be here and, nurse your I don't mean to be like insensitive, but like nurse you guys in that sense where you guys don't have any real issues. You guys can walk fine, you guys can eat fine, you guys can do everything fine. So I kind of moved off from that. But like every once in a while now, if I hear like a combat vet or I run into them at the gym or something like that, and I know, we share stories, they're telling me that they're going through a rough time. I just tell them my story. I'm like, hey man, you'll be able to figure it out. If you have the will, you'll be able to make it happen.
I think there's so much value in that, like sharing the story. And I think even for the guys who are going through stuff that is hard for you to relate to, there's there's no doubt power in just being around some like-minded folks where you can be open in that way with them. And I
Yeah.
think too, like part of the power is also being told like, hey, dude, at some point, to some extent, you do also have to suck it up. You do have to, move on. Like, yes, acknowledge what happened. You have to come to terms with it to some extent, but you also got to move forward. And sometimes seeing someone else whose story you actually respect, you know, be candid with you, like you were candid with them. There's value in that too. And I think that's part of what maybe a lot of us are missing when we leave service, and I know I'm really guilty of it. I kind of almost not intentionally really, but didn't really stay connected with any Rangers for the last like good amount of time. Now, if anyone called me, I would answer. If they were coming through town, they could stay at the house. Like, of course, no questions asked, but I didn't make an effort to really keep comms with folks, right? And so, I think similar, like lacking a place to kind of put that shared experience made it tough to deal with it because to your point, you're kind of alone in that
Yeah.
way, right? And so, yeah, I think there's so much power. I mean, honestly, it's even a driver behind this podcast, right? It's kind of that idea of my hope is, one listener hears something that you say that they can relate to, that flips the switch that they needed to flip, that hopefully starts to push them in a better direction, because my buddy Ben Symes would say, like, you got to self arrest, right? Like nobody's coming for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had a podcast where it's Find My Tribe, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's so important. Like I've talked to a lot of ex-military guys that they don't have hobbies or they don't have anything, a community that they're a part of. And I really push for, jujitsu because I'm biased, right? I train, but that's a great tribe to be a part of. You got guys that are waking up and trying to kill each other every day in a
Yeah.
sense, right? And
Yep.
you're going through something tough together. And then it's like you can kind of BS about family life or kids or something. Like you just need a group of people you can relate to that you can just vent to, right? And it's harder, I think, as you get older as an adult to make friends, especially if you're not from that hometown. You didn't grow up with anybody, you don't you're moving from place to place. It's like, where do I find a group? Well, join a gym, it could be anything, a CrossFit gym, something where there's like a community of people that are kind of struggling together or something you enjoy together.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think part of what's tough too is unless it's something we've always done, it's also hard to start a new activity when you're older. And so
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
if you're like, hey, I'm looking for new friends that are doing a new activity that I suck at,
yeah,
that maybe they've been doing for 20 years
yeah.
and they don't suck, like that can be hard too to insert yourself into that arena. Just like I'm sure like day one jujitsu, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. That's another thing though too, is like I tell guys that are getting out, you gotta get rid of the ego and you have to accept that you're gonna suck at anything you do, and everything takes time and effort, right? You put in the time at a place and you're gonna get better. And to me, jujitsu is the best way to explain it is like you show up, everybody sucks at jujitsu. Nobody starts out good. We just show up every day and you just suck less and less, and then you build the camaraderie, the friends. Like I've got friends I've been training with for over 10 years now. They're like my closest friends, closer than friends I went to high school with that I still keep in contact with, but I don't talk to every single day. I talk to these other guys almost every day now. We hang out and we have commonalities, a lot of commonalities. So it's just for guys that are getting out, it's find something, doesn't matter what it is, you're gonna suck at it. Just go hang out with that group of people. If you like it, then and you're hanging out with them and they all like it, you got one thing that you got in common. That'll help you at least get away from thinking about the past.
Yeah, I think too. You bring up such a good point with the ego, and I think a lot of us forget like how much we sucked in basic training, how much we sucked at RIP, right? Like you forget the first, time you tried to tie knots and got smoked for it, and you forget how heavy the ruck was when you started, and you forget that when you get to battalion, you kind of suck at everything too, whether you do or not, they're gonna find a way to push you. So like, I think we forget that we just think back to how good we got,
Yeah.
and we lean into, man, I was so good at this thing, and then I totally left this thing and those people, and now I got to go, to meet new people, I got to suck at something different, and maybe part of the difference is that was a collective suck. And so that does like for me, I love that. Like I don't mind suffering with a group.
Yeah.
I suck at suffering alone. Like I just am it's
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with it, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Dude, even I think back like SEER school, if I was getting like slapped in front of everybody, I actually loved that because I was like, hey, at least everyone's like a part of this and they can see me and they're like, oh, hell, like they're going to respect me for that. If I
Yeah.
was like alone in my little cell and like nothing was happening, I wasn't even getting bothered.
Yeah.
I was hating life
Yeah. Yeah. No,
just because I was
definitely.
by myself. So when you and I chatted briefly, probably a month ago now, maybe a few weeks, but one of the stories you told me that I absolutely loved and I want to make sure made it on here was kind of about what you're currently doing professionally and how that started.
Okay. So I have my own security company. I was working with my brother at first doing mortgages, and that kind of fell apart. He made me the CEO of his company, and I had no experience in running a business, no experience in mortgages or anything, but he trusted me. So he's like, "Hey, I want you to be the CEO of my company. I want you to learn the ropes of how to run this." And I was like, "Man, you're you got a lot on my shoulders right now, right?" We ended up failing because I didn't know anything. And I was like, "Dude, you should have hired a CEO." You know what I mean? Like, you should have hired somebody better than me, right? Like, I know what I'm doing in the military, but like, this is a whole nother world. Like, he's like, "Oh, dude, you're responsible." I'm like, that has nothing to do with running a business, you know? Like, there's so much more to it, right? But I learned so much from him from that. I learned from all my failures, and man, we failed miserably, right? Like, we lost everything. We almost lost my parents' house. At that point, that was hard, man. So after all that, I threw a Hail Mary out there. My brother has a huge network of friends, and I reached out to one of them and I was like, "Hey, can I have a job?" Oh, he was like, "Yeah, man. What do you want to do?" I was like, "Well, what do you got for me? I'm unemployed now, man. Like, we just lost our business. I don't have anything." He's like, "Well, you can work on our farm." I was like, all right, doing what?" Like, straight up farm work, right? It was hard work, man. I give it to farmers because I was waking up at like 5:30 in the morning. I was up in Salinas moving dirt, and it was pretty miserable, man. It wasn't until I came home on a 3-day break that the client, my friends at the time, were like, "Hey, man, we just got robbed." And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know what that has to do with me, right?" And they were like, it's like military style." And I just showed up there and I just saw where all their stuff is at. And I just came home. So I'm like, "Oh man," thinking they think I did this, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, because it's like, well, you're the only one that saw you just saw it, and then we just got robbed. So I was like, "Oh man," like I didn't know what I was driving into, right? Like I was
Yeah.
driving up there. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna question everybody up there. When you get up there, just let us know when you're there." So I get up there and I told them what's up, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to lead pretty much the investigation of what happened." I was like, "All right, thank God they don't think it's me," right? And so I was like, "All right, I don't even know what I'm doing." I just started asking people questions. I drove around the area and started looking for camera footage. I got a good amount of footage from the local businesses, and that's when the clients were like, "Hey, man, do you ever think about starting a security company?" And I was like, "No, I never thought anything of it." Like, "Well, dude, if you can start one up, we'll help you out. We'll get you a contracts, and we have a bunch of commercial properties. You can hire guys and you just vet them out, and you do your thing." So I was like, "All right, well, let me Google up how to start a security company." And the first thing that popped up was how to start a securitycompany.com. I was like, "Hey, man, it's a sign, right? This is a sign, dude. Like, it can't get easier, right? God's just telling me, here, this is how you do it." So that's how I did it, man. I got my website from them. I started looking up how to hire people, how to interview. I didn't do all that stuff in the mortgage industry. My brother did all the interviewing and the hiring and stuff. So I didn't know how to do all that. I just had to Google everything and just kind of winged it from there. I did that. I started that in 2018, I think, 2018. Been doing about 8 years now. I mean, it's been running pretty solid, just kind of learning as I go and figuring it out. But that was another thing, is like fear of failure. I just couldn't have it. I didn't have a choice at that time. I was just about to get married before this, and I had like $900 in my account. I mean, I was still getting the retirement, but we blew everything on trying to save the mortgage company, and that didn't work out. So I just got lucky, with these guys hooking me up.
There is something to say about having your back against the wall.
Yeah.
My brother just retired from the military. It's funny, he was actually at 275 when he was a mortar,
Okay.
but he just retired, and he's super into golf, and so he went to this caddy course, and he was gonna start caddying, and I hit him up, I'm like, "Hey, are you caddying yet? Like, what's the deal?" And he's like, "I don't know, like, I'm pretty comfortable," and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"Why would I go start working right now? Like, it's
Yeah.
probably," he's like, "You know me." He's like, "My back's against the wall." He's like, "That's when I'll get to work." And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah." I was like, "I get that. That's kind of a good point. Sometimes it's I mean, it's a hell of a motivator, that's for damn sure."
Yeah, yeah. You got no other option, right? Yeah, you gotta figure it out at that point. Yeah, but when you're comfortable, man, that's what kills all your dreams. I've learned that, the hard way. I got comfortable a few parts in my life, and every single time I've gotten comfortable, bad things have happened. So I've learned how to create uncomfortable situations in my life. to where now it's a life and death situation. I gotta figure out how to make it in everything that I try to do,
I
you
think
know?
the key is to create discomfort without it being self-sabotage, right? Because there is a fine line there. And I know my last guest was Giovanni, and he said, man was meant to seek comfort. We were never meant to find it. And
Yeah,
I know for me, like
I
a
like that.
few times in my life, I've found comfort, almost didn't know how to handle it, and I blew that shit right up. And
Yeah.
so right now I'm actually in a similar situation of like I'm in a very comfortable spot. And so I'm trying to purposely introduce enough discomfort to keep things going and continue to grow, but not so much that I burn this bitch to the ground.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, definitely. It's definitely a fine line, yeah.
Dude, that's just to recap that real quick. You went from getting a phone call wondering if you were accused of being the one that set up a military style raid to going in and instead of being questioned, you're doing the questioning. You Google how to start a security company.com literally,
Yeah.
land on that page, and that starts you on an 8-year endeavor of successfully running a business.
Yeah. Yep.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely blessed, God blessed me on that.
So here's a question for you. The most important question in the entire podcast, which is, can you outshoot James?
Oh, man. That's a tough one.
You can
We'd
be
have to
honest
get
with
back
us.
at it. Huh? We'd have to get back at it. I've been shooting a lot lately. I think he's been doing other stuff, so I might have a one up on him, you know?
Dude, that guy, he stays doing the most. Like he's
Yeah.
always just on
He's
like,
always busy too, man.
oh, he's so busy. He's always on a plane somewhere or doing something and it's, some work, some fun. And but what's crazy? He also always makes the time for me, I feel like, which is crazy. Like he sure doesn't owe me any time, but like he's always available. I'm like,
Yeah.
how are you this busy and yet like you'll jump on the phone for a call on a random day and time?
Yeah. Well, he's the man, dude. He's got a lot of things figured out, man. So he's starting a new journey as well in the mortgage business. And I was like, "Hey, dude, best of luck to you," because I jumped out of that. You know what I mean? I couldn't do that, man. But he's a talker. He knows how to network, and he's like the president of his SF chapter. He's always doing things, man. Fundraising and helping out other vets, helping out people. He's another good connection to have and good person to talk to.
Yeah, I landed in California to speak with the SFA chapter at one point, and within like minutes of landing, we're on our way to pick up like some tables and move them from one place to another place because he had run the luncheon where they raise a bunch of money, and it's just like he was just like even while I was there, he was like on it, working, doing the things. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to get him out to do a USPSA comp. He's more of the I think it's tactical games.
Tactical games, yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I think he's hit me up to try to do that too. I was like, man, that's a lot of running, you know?
I mean, that's the thing. He's a fit dude, so I think he really wants to include the fitness portion of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I know even for me, I was never a very good shooter. Like I wasn't a great marksman, but as soon as it involved shooting and moving, suddenly
yeah,
like the field leveled a little bit.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
obviously, but the stuff you're doing is like a whole other level. Like I have friends that are shooting like that, and I'm like, man, I think because we had to be a little good at so many things,
yeah,
and like there were a couple guys who could touch that kind of marksmanship, but not most of us, obviously.
yeah, yeah. We'd all be gassing and dying just from running around kit, you know?
Dude, yeah, yeah, exactly. Just trying to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
What, are you involved in any type of like, I don't know, like ranger organizations or veteran organizations or anything like that these days?
No, not these days. These days, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of my business, and just work on like my mental health right now, my me, you know what I mean? Everything is for the most part good, but the business is dragging me down right now, just dealing with clients, dealing with employees, dealing with we lost out on a lot of business cuz I rely on my clients to do well. And if my clients aren't doing well, then they can't afford security. So, they cut out a lot of our contracts in half, basically. We had 24-hour securities at a lot of places, and now it's like half of it's gone. Overnight's gone just during the day. So I'm trying to figure out what my next moves are. And, I told you earlier, I was starting to try to day trade, which is a whole nother, kick in the butt. It's like failing every day all over again, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, you're no stranger to taking on hard stuff, right? And, like, there's
Yeah.
probably a degree of comfort in that, like,
Yeah.
in the
Learn
struggle?
how to embrace it kinda
Yeah,
deal. But yeah,
yeah.
organizations wise, like I help out a pastor with whatever he needs. And he helps out the PTSD Foundation out here in Orange County. I'm not as consistent as I used to be with it, but I try to help him out whenever he hits me up.
Yeah, I tried to engage a little bit with, like, I'm on the mentor list anyway for, like, I think it's called Three Rangers Foundation.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
But, you know, and it's like guys who are getting out, and what they kinda do is match those guys with people who are doing what they wanna do out in the field.
Okay.
And so if folks are looking to kinda get into the human performance realm, they'll sometimes get connected with me. I think honestly, like, I think there was one I dropped the ball on, and then I think there's been 2 that I sent, you know, like, an extensive, "Hey, let's set up a call," this, that, the other, and nothing. And so it's hard to, like, get something going when people aren't
Yeah,
really engaging.
yeah.
But I think I don't know, especially after my last, you know, my last conversation with Ryan Antes, I feel like I need to engage more, do more on that front.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about the same thing. James keeps hitting me up to join his organization, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I wasn't a SF dude." He's like, "I can
Yeah.
try to get you in." You know what I mean? He's pushing, and I was like, "Alright, well, I don't know what do you guys need me to do exactly?" That's another thing is, like, can I put my time into this fully to help you guys out? That's another hard thing to dedicate yourself to.
Yeah, it definitely like, hard to dedicate the time, then if you do, you wanna feel like you're actually achieving something.
Yeah, you're actually helping out, like, I'm not just a body there just kinda doing little things, I wanna try to do big things for them if I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like SF does a way better job on the alumni front than Rangers do. I'm not really sure the rationale. I think maybe because it's one, they're most of them are a little bit older when they're in the unit,
Yeah,
you know, and maybe they're in the unit a little bit longer. You know, there's kind of a lot of one and done folks through the Rangers versus a lot of guys, you know, are more career minded, I think, on the SF front. So there's just like maybe they have more of a lasting bond. But yeah, even for me, that's been the majority of kind of my community because I coached, you know, with first group when James was there. And that's kind of like I almost have more ties over there than I do on the Ranger side of the house.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of Rangers out here. We try to get together. There's a 375 guy that got, like, a Facebook group chat together, and we were meeting up every year, at least once a year, but that kinda fell off, Everybody has their own thing and trying to it's hard to get a huge group of guys together all at the same time, same day?
No doubt. Do you know Ryan at all?
Ryan?
Ryan Antes?
No, I don't.
So, because I met him when James reintroed us, he also introduced me to Ryan. Ryan was a BCO 275 guy,
Okay.
and, he was just on actually just the previous podcast that went out on Monday. Awesome dude, but he's gotta live out there near you guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you would enjoy like, he was a trip. Like, him and I jumped on a call, like, just a random, "Hey, how you doing? Never met you before." It
Yeah.
was like an hour plus later, and we were still talking like we were bros.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, just one of those easy guys to pick up a chat to.
Yeah.
Just an awesome human. You know, James is always introducing me to good people.
Yeah. Nice, nice, nice.
There's
You
just
said he lives out
some
here?
yeah, he lives out there, like, I don't know exactly the neighborhood. I do
Okay.
have his address, not that I should throw it up on the podcast,
Yeah, 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 no, good.
but I do have his address, and he can't be too far from you, so might be worth, you know, an introduction. Who knows if there's a time that you guys can meet up, and he's a lawyer, so if you get your ass in trouble, you got somebody to call.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, yeah, always need a lawyer friend.
That's yeah, yeah, his advice was, "Keep your mouth shut," was basically his
Yeah,
advice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Probably
definitely. Good to know. I'll have to link up with James and see if we could all link up.
yeah, and if nothing else, I'm out that way at least once a year. So next time I am, dude, let's all try to, figure it out, find a way and get together, even if it's just grabbing freaking lunch or something. But
Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, let me know next time you're out here.
it definitely would be good. And likewise for you, obviously, if you're out this way in Colorado. So
Yeah.
so dude, um, man, this is so funny because this is another one where like I know you, but I didn't really know you well.
Yeah.
we have so many great mutual friends. So pretty awesome to spend some time with you on a, Wednesday night and get a little bit more about your story. So first of all, I greatly appreciate you coming on and your willingness to share some of that. Kind of, last on the share front, I guess, what would be your advice, I guess, for the veteran community who's kind of listening to this? If you just had like the one thing you could share with them based on your experience, over the last 20-ish years, what would it be?
I mean, find something that you enjoy doing and just run with that, and find a group of people that enjoy doing the same thing with you and link up with them, stay with them, because you can't do this whole life thing alone. It's tough, and you're gonna be in a dark place if you try to just, tough it out. We have this stigma, I guess, that, like, we're tough dudes, that we're in the military and, you don't wanna talk about things. I feel like you gotta talk about whatever your problems are, It's not a sign of weakness. It's just it is what it is. Like, we all went through stuff. We're humans. We're not superhumans, and, there's a lot of support out there, and that support can come in many forms. I got support through jujitsu. Those guys aren't veterans that I hang out with. They are just all normal dudes, but we all like to roll, and, they've got families. We can vent about our issues, and they can help me out with whatever their experience was with their marriage or their families, So that to me is, I think, my most important thing that I got out of my civilian life is finding a good group of friends through my hobbies.
Yeah, I definitely echo that sentiment 1,000%. I think most of the folks who have been on here would say the same. So definitely appreciate that advice. And Paul, thank you for coming on. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Nate. Thanks for your time.